Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the AIPP Queensland 2018 Epson Professional Photography Awards. And I'm pretty sure I said that around the wrong way, but we know where we are. This morning we are judging the 2018 AIPP Commercial category, sponsored by the AIPP. My name is Sarah McKenna and I'll be your panel chair for this session. Our judging panel consists of Adam Finch, Robin Campbell, Ollie Dale, Linda Coulson and Chris Anderson. We also have at the ready William Long, Tony Holden and Cam Attry. The commercial category is for all images that would ordinarily be commissioned by a business for marketing or editorial use. This includes, but is not limited to, advertising, aerial, architecture, corporate, food, industrial, fashion and sport photography. Images will have generally been created with a specific brief and often under supervision of an agency or client representative. The subject matter isn't the concern, but rather the purpose for which the photography was created. Entries will be judged with a broad view in the context of a commercial photograph. Entrants in this category may include non-photographic elements used as part of the brief, as long as the image submitted remains substantially photographic in origin. This category will be judged in 3 sections: commissioned, self-commissioned, sport. Although the category is judged in 3 sections to assist the judges in their assessment, there is only one award. And if we're all good to go, can we have our first print, please? And this print has scored 76. Ollie, can I get you straight up to make a comment on this image, please?
I enjoyed the kind of attempt at some kind of emotional connection. I just didn't quite get all the elements and why they were there, but it was handled really well, and I think it scored exactly what it should have.
Thank you, Ollie. Next print, please. This print scores 75. And we're all happy with that. If I can get a comment, please, from Robin.
Food photography is one of those things that, as a photographer, sometimes employing a food stylist goes a really, really long way. Simple things in this image, such as the background, which is running in one direction, and you've got the lovely wood grain coming through, even just lining them up and keeping a close eye on composition. You could push this quite a lot further. The texture of the grapes is lovely.
Lovely. Thank you, Robin. Next print, please. This print scores 81, silver award. Adam, can you comment on the print, please?
I really enjoyed the use of strong colour against the sort of monochromatic background. There's a lot of coming and going through the image, which is quite dynamic. I just found the edge of frame tension of that left-hand object to be a little too strong. I think if it was just a little sort of bit more in the frame, it would be a bit more comfortable.
Thank you, Adam. Next print, please. This print is scored 75. Oh, yes, sorry, Adam, you sure?
I just sort of like to, photographers should probably have a look at just paying attention to sort of the fine details. The highlight sort of in the blue of the hair becomes quite distracting, and where the sort of the makeup on the right hand side of her sort of chest, you can sort of see how it's blocked out, and there's some little spots on her gown that, although fit the messy look, become quite distracting, and just sort of looking at that fine detail.
Thank you, Adam. Next print, please. By majority, this print has scored 80, silver award. I'll get a comment, please, from Ollie.
I love the graphic nature of this and the story of the fingers being beaten up by the fact that he's played so long. It would have gone a lot higher for me if the blacks had been handled a bit better. Just at the edge where the hand disappears into the black is a real sharp line. So just a little bit more handling could have taken us a lot further.
And there's some nodding from fellow judges. Thanks, Ollie. Next print, please. This print scores 76. Chris, I'd love to hear from you on this one, please.
Yeah, I think this is a really good example of professional practice for food photography. I would have gone higher if the foreground, the front of the plate had been in focus. I think you've got control over that, and I found that distracting. And there's an element just sneaking off the edge of the left frame that takes my eye away. So addressing those would help to lift it.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll keep you on your toes this morning. I'll have a quick judge change, please. I've done it again, not coincidentally. Thank you, Chris. William, I'll get you to come on for me, please. And then we'll have our next print, please. This print has scored 80, silver award. William, can I get a comment from you, please?
I was left with a few questions on this, but the framing, the composition, just left me wondering a bit. And yeah, I think 80 is what it got. I gave it 82. I think that's a fair score. I just was looking for something else.
Thank you, William. And Linda, I do know you're there. I'm picking the judges that are closest to the announced score. We'll get to you shortly. Next print, please. This print has scored 70. Robin, can I get a comment from you, please?
Yeah, I think the actual pose within the dancing character is quite interesting. The major element we're lacking here is focus. So her bodice is sharp, her face is really, really, really soft. So we need the main element and the main point of focus, which in this case is her face, to be the sharpest element. And then everything should flow from there. But keep shooting. I think you've certainly found an interesting shape to present us with.
Thank you, Robin. Next print, please. Thank you, judges. This print has scored 72. Ollie would love to say something.
I'd love to. Just for the author, the graphic of the plate is so important that it really. I don't mind chopping the bottom and the side, but the top, where it's really bright, needs to be all in the image. And then the way you've got your lighting, it's reflecting off the food to a point where I don't actually know what I'm looking at. So that lighting just needs to be addressed so that the food becomes more prominent.
Thank you, Ollie. Next print, please. Okay. This is suspenseful. I'm a slave to the technology over here, and it's not as quick as what's happening on the other screen. This print has scored 85, silver with a distinction. And I would love a comment from Adam, please.
Yeah, I love the duality of this. It sort of almost feels like braille or text from a distance, and you get up close and it's little tiny motor vehicles and army trucks and all sorts of bits and pieces. There's so much depth and detail in it, and the mixture of the very sort of straight line textures and then the circles, the donut work in the centre is really interesting. It's well seen and well presented.
Okay, thank you for that, Adam. Now, if I can have a blank screen for a moment, please. Okay, so we've just had a slight delay as we had to hand out apparel for our judges to be able to view our next print. So next print, please. This print has scored 82, silver. And Linda Colson is challenging on 87. So I'll accept that challenge. Linda, you have a 77, 78, 80 and 2 84s.
Ooh, okay. I would like to, first of all, it's a beautiful print. It's beautifully presented. I love the 4 images, and I think they all work really well together, and they're telling this story about something which I could only guess could be a theatre production. What I am presented with in relation to the 3D glasses is great, and it's fantastic, and I loved that whole concept. But looking beyond that, I was looking more so at the composition and the lighting and the technique, and it's just beautiful. And I really enjoyed all of the different images that work together. I think it was one of those things where, when you're presented with 8 images like this, I found that the 8 images worked really, really well together to tell a story about these characters, which is, they're all very different. There's personality in those images. It's all presented to me in a way that is photographically, I thought, very, really high quality, and it's in this way that is just so different. And I think we need to acknowledge the author here and really, let's reward them for what they have put before us, because the characters and the personality, what they have captured, and the way that they have presented these images, I think it really speaks for the print, and I'd really like to see us to reward this photographer.
Adam, I'll go to you on 77, please.
Yeah, look, the 3D stuff's cool, and some of the images benefit from the technique, but what I really struggle with is I don't find them particularly connected. I'm making an assumption that it's from a theatre production, but that's not completely clear to me. There's not a great connection between each of the characters. Sort of maybe the background is sort of similar, but not necessarily similar enough to get a complete connection between all of them. I find some of the lack of control of even just getting the verticals straight when it doesn't have necessary for it to be sort of wrong. In particular, the full length of the woman in the top row. I just find that to be a bit clumsy, and it's in professional standard. But when you're talking award standards, some of those elements just need to be better. And I'm just sort of not seeing it in silver distinction. I'm at 77. I was happy with a silver. I think that's still deserving, but you're talking a different territory when it gets into distinction.
So most of the panel have indicated that they would like to speak on this, and I think that it's different and interesting and worth talking about. So I'll go to Robin next on 78, please.
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing here is the cast shots from Little Shop of Horrors. Interesting use of 3D. I find on the bottom row, the second from the left, I think that's a particularly good use of 3D, because when you look at it, it looks as if Seymour's actually, feed me Seymour. He's actually projecting this plant out towards you, and I think that's quite successful in terms of the use of 3D. The problem is when you put 8 images together, it's hard to give a silver distinction for when you have shots in there that really aren't quite there in terms of awards status. I'd love to see it reworked for APA. The second one on the top row, I think that could be a really, really, really strong image on its own. And the same with that second one on the bottom row as well. So I think there's potential there for a couple of really, really strong images. But as a collective, I think it actually brings it down. But interesting, and I'm so glad we got to talk about it.
William on 84.
Yeah, I was at the high end. Unfortunately, as I sit here and analyse it, I'm less swayed by the nice effect of the 3D, which only we can see with the glasses on. The trouble with multiple images is that you are dragged down by images that are not as good as the others. So for me, there's probably 5 images there that are not really that crash hot, and they don't really need to be there. And as someone, was it Robin that's just said, there's 2 really good images there, and there are. On reflection, I think I've been generous. Sorry.
Linda, your right of reply, please.
Great comments. Really glad we did get to talk about this one. In relation to the background, the scene of, as we've all discussed, being possibly a theatre production, the background and the lines going all over, that image has got lines going in different directions all over it. If we're looking at this image as a whole, there are lines and things going everywhere. So that part did not detract me at all. What I really feel is the strongest part of this image is the whole image. Now, there are images there which are going to be stronger, but as a whole, looking at the entire image as it is telling us information about characters in this play. And all of those characters play an important role within that production, obviously. And you can see all of their individual personalities within each image. So as a whole, it is telling us the story of those characters. 3D aside, I'm not really, it's a great effect, but I'm really actually looking more towards the images themselves. And I feel like the photographer has displayed this in a way which is telling us a really good story about these characters. And I feel that we need to all come up and have a think about this image and let's celebrate those characters with a silver distinction.
So Linda's score is locked in at 87. Judges, can you rescore now, please? And it's gone up 1 point to 83, silver. Judges, if I could get you to pass your goggles down the end, please. Thank you. And we'll have our next print, please. Looking right at Tony and calling you Adam. Tony, can you come on in, please? And William stepping off. So Cam, can I get you to come in? Now, it's judges often step off for various reasons. It's a good thing to recognise an image that you can't judge or won't judge or have it akin to, or whatever the reason is, we don't judge our judges for stepping back and getting somebody else to come in and judge the print for us. This print has scored 81, silver award. Adam, may I get a comment from you, please?
This is a really, really well-resolved, technically perfect image. And what kind of brought me from professional practice into the awards centre was the level of technique and perfection in it. It's sort of above and beyond what is normally expected, and pushing it a little bit higher than that. If I was to be really, really pedantic, I'd find the footsteps or the marks around that causeway to be just a little bit distracting, but maybe that gave it a little bit of a human element to a very sort of sterile environment. But yeah, I'm very comfortable in silver 82.
Lovely, thank you, Adam. And if we can have a blank screen, please. That brings us to the end of the first part of commercial. Shortly we'll have self-commissioned. I'm just going to do a little bit of a judge change while we do that. So, and I didn't have that in my head ready to go. I'll get Tony and Cam to come on for me, please. And Ollie, do you want to spell for a little bit? William, please, for a moment. And if we're already at the back, for commercial self-commissioned, we'll have our first print, please. This print has scored 84, silver. Robin, you're right on 84. Can you talk to the print, please?
Yeah, there's a beautiful aesthetic going on within this image. It's been stunningly styled with her hat and her lipstick and so forth. Introduction of second light, a bit of a separation from the background, probably could have pushed it that little bit higher, but otherwise, yeah, beautiful, simplistic aesthetic image.
Thank you, Robin. We'll have our next print, please. This print has scored 76. Tony, I'll get you to speak to the print, please.
an interesting construct. I just think the texture for me is a bit over the top. If they were to redo it, I'd look at the texture. Maybe just cut that back a bit.
There's a little bit of nodding from other judges then. Thanks, Tony. Next print, please. This print by majority has scored 84. Silver award. Linda, can I have a comment from you, please?
It's such a beautifully presented image. It's I'm absolutely loving the graphical nature of it and the black and white pattern that is. It reminds me of a black and white snake, which I've seen, which is just incredible. I just love that reference. The thing that brought me out of Silver Distinction range is that it's really black and white, and then you can just see the bottom of the model's shoes in the knees are lifting up, and there's a few other little grey areas which just brought it out of that that refined sense that I would love to have seen.
Thank you, Linda. Next print, please. This print scores 79. Cam, can I get a comment from you, please?
Yeah, definitely a very high professional standards image. Really nice graphic design, and it flows quite well. I think the only issue that I could see what could be improved for me would be just in the sky there. It's a little bit sort of wishy-washy at the top there. I think, and a more stronger dominant colour there might have helped it.
Thanks, Cam. Next print, please. This print by majority has scored 79. Adam, thank you.
Yeah, it's quite a strong pose and well done to the photographer for the concept of the image, and probably just the loss of highlight in the hairpiece in the top is a really difficult part to resolve. It's just that little bit too hot, and the flyaways kind of around that sort of become quite sort of dominant because of that. I'd also probably feel it's a little bit tightly cropped at the bottom, just that sort of the finger detail just sort of leeches out, and I'd like to see that maybe a bit more included.
Thank you, Adam. Next print, please. This print has scored 79. And Robin's going to challenge on 84. So, Robin, you've got an 81, a 78, 78, 75.
Yep. Okay, so I'm sitting on a silver award here. I was teetering on the edge. Is it, isn't it, isn't it? And the one thing going through my head with this image was, gee, she kind of looks a little bit plastic. And then I saw all the plastic balls around her and went, oh, okay, all right. She's supposed to look that way. You know, she's purposely retouched so her skin really does look plastic and fake. And I think that's part of the statement of the image. Love the styling, love the green and the the black, the hint of the blue, and that little speckled background, which is, you know, giving us a bit of a feel, you know, the pop arty theme and the flick of the hair. I think it's been beautifully constructed, and I think there are actually some rather clever moments within that, which is what pushes it up for me into the silver range as opposed to dropping just below.
And then we'll go to Linda, then Adam, please.
I actually really enjoyed this image when it came around because it's got that sass element, which is just beautiful. What really struck me though is when it first moved around, the first thing my eye went to was that ball or down the bottom on her leg, because it looked like it was an extension of her boot. So from a styling perspective, that sort of really threw me. And then when I got up close to the image, in the hair, like everything is so beautifully styled. And then in her hair are all these flyaways across that beautiful straight hair that's coming down. There's hair strands going across. And it just really brought the image down for me. So I'd like to hear some more.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Adam, please.
Yeah, I also struggle with the flyaways, but a lot. But at the same time, it kind of gave it the only reality in the image. Maybe that's sort of how I saw it, because I think that plastic element that Robin saw is sort of what I got definitely out of it. I think the use of colour palette, the styling, the pose, the lighting in it all of those things are well above professional standard into award standard, and yeah, that's sort of how I was with Robin in the silver category.
Thank you, Adam. Robin, your right of reply, please.
Yeah, everything in this image is done on purpose. So the hair movement and the flyaways is entirely intentional, and that is the movement within the image. Often with handbag shots, you get that kind of turning around kind of styling and posing, and so it's very, very typical. And I think that's what they're portraying here. As far as the self-commissioned piece goes, I have no doubt at all that a handbag company would pick that up and run with it without even thinking twice. It is that level of exceptional where you could easily sell a campaign off the back of it, and that's, solid silver.
Thank you, Robin. Robin's score stays at 84. Judges, can you rescore now, please? And this print is now 81, silver award. Excellent teamwork. Next print, please. Ta-la. Okay, so there is no sport in this category now. No entries into sport in Queensland this year. So that is the end of the commercial category. Judges have a little bit of a break and need to be back in this room at 10 o'clock when we will commence the judging of the next category.